Go ahead, Wade.
We're good, Christy?
Yes, we're good.
All right, welcome everybody. This is the January 26, 2021 meeting of the Village of Chagrin Falls Board of Zoning Appeals. My name is Wade Frick. I'm the chair of the BZA. Thank you very much for joining us. We have two items on our agenda tonight. We take them in the order they were received. So we will get going soon. We have no minutes to approve. Is that right, Rob?
That's correct.
All right.
Working on it.
And then we will swear witnesses one at a time before each witness testifies. So if you've never joined us before, we try to run an informally formal meeting. So we do follow an order and a script. We are recorded. We do produce minutes that will stay in the village records. So if we could ask everyone before you speak, if you could identify yourself by name, we will swear you in, and that way our note taker will be able to get everything down. The way we do it is I'll have Rob, before each application, Rob will read the application and give us at least a background of how the matter came before us, what the issues are. We'll then turn it over to the applicant to make whatever presentation they'd like to make. The board will ask questions. We'll then go open mic. We'll have Christy open up the YouTube or whatever the mechanism is that we open, and we'll turn it over to members of the audience. We typically like to have people who like to speak in favor of the application first, and if there are any that are opposed, they can speak second. I want to make sure everyone who's joining us tonight gets a chance to speak and to state whatever they'd like to state before us. So thank you again all for being here. Without further ado, we will begin. The first application before us is that from Rick Duty NCR Ventures and PCHE RP2 LLC, 87 West Street. We've had a number of presentations and approvals of various variances on this property already. But Rob, we have one more issue to address. So if you could identify that for us to get us started, please.
Sure, thank you, Wade. As Wade stated, this application is from 87 West Street. The PCHE RP2 LLC is the owner of the property. Rick Duty will be the operator of the restaurant, the new restaurant there that is yet to be named. It was lastly the Bull and Bird property. This is located in the central shopping zoning district in the village. I do want to state that this is not a material change to the set of plans and the proposal that was before the board in December. The reason this is coming before you tonight is for the request for a variance for the parking requirement. In 2019, with the zoning code change and update, the requirement for parking was added for the central shopping district. So any expansion or additional floor space for occupancies would have to fall under a parking review. This project has appeared before the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they did grant the parking plan as presented on November 16th of 2020, as well as a front yard setback modification for both the enclosed expansion of the building as well as the covered front patio that's proposed. And we'll go through the spaces that are being added in a few minutes. This board, the Board of Zoning Appeals, approved the variance to allow an addition to a non-conforming structure that was granted on November 24th of 2020. The Architectural Board of Review granted final approval for the proposed additions to the building on December 15th of 2020. So what they're proposing to do is enclose a current covered front patio. That's the existing area that comes right out to the front sidewalk to the left of the front entry. Even though there's drop down plastic sides now and it appears enclosed, They're proposing to enclose that space with a hard roof surface as well as formal windows adorning the front facing wall of the structure. They're proposing to add a covered patio to the right of the front entranceway and a covered patio on the side of the front of the building, kind of leading towards the front of the Inn of Chagrin. And they are also proposing a second floor patio area above the current rear patio in the back area, if those of you that are familiar with that area. In my zoning review, I listed the square footages of those areas. In the variance application that was turned in, there was an update with a slightly smaller footprint for two of the deck areas. So the side patio addition is still 650 square foot. The front covered patio addition is now 227 square feet, and the raised deck area is 545 square feet. And when that totals up, our code requires one parking space per 50 square foot under 1141.05. And that would mean that 29 additional parking spaces would be required under the zoning code for this property. There is no direct parking for this property, but there is a lot of spaces that I'm sure Rick Siegfried, his staff will explain, which he explained to the Planning and Zoning Commission when they approved his parking plan. With that parking plan, I also want to mention that there was one requirement of that all employees of the restaurant be required to park in free or leased village parking lots as part of the way to lessen the burden on the public parking area that's shared amongst the other properties in that district. So with that, that's kind of an overview, and I do have some site plans and documents and things like that we can show. And if Rick is ready to start presenting.
Hey, Rob, I missed, what did you say about the employee parking and free, that's requirement from what?
The Planning and Zoning Commission, when they granted or they approved the parking plan as presented to them, they had the caveat or the requirement with that they were approving that as long as all employees be required to park in free or leased village parking lots, which you can also so require as well if you see fit. But it already has been stated and has been part of their granting of the parking plan.
Okay.
Even though they granted the parking plan and approved it, there still needs to be a review and vote on the actual granting of the variance for this requirement.
Okay.
So in order to, if we wanted to grant the variance contingent on that, the fact that it's already part of the parking plan, we would still need to express that.
You wouldn't necessarily need to because it already is part of the requirements and
Okay.
the operator knows that, but you can if you want.
Okay, got
Probably
it.
just to restate it, Lisa, for the record when we get
Okay.
there.
Mhm.
Okay, Rick, are you speaking or who's speaking on behalf of the application?
I have Rick Duty. Let's see. Use the raise your hand function in the Zoom platform if you would.
Rick
I have
Siegfried's out
both
there
Rick
too?
Duty and Rick Siegfried. Okay, I see. Thank you. I'll move you. Rick, I see you.
So we'll start one Rick at a time. Is it Rick Siegfried going first?
Siegfried, yes, that's whose hand was raised.
All right. Dale, can you swear Rick in, please?
Let's see.
Sure.
Video on.
Can we see him?
It takes a minute to connect. So Rick Siegfried, if you would please unmute and start your camera.
Gotcha.
There's another hand raised. Hold on. Rick Duty is also raising his hand. So
No, I'm sorry.
we need to do one at a time.
Okay, I'll lower mine. I apologize.
Hey,
No
No
worries.
problem.
excuse me too.
Okay,
Hey,
Dale.
both dogs do tricks.
Rick, can you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you'll give to the Board of Zoning Appeals will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Okay, so this is a piece of property you all are very familiar with. I'll go quick because maybe that works. If not, we'll slow it down and come back. previously the Gamekeepers Tavern, then converted to the Bull and Bird a couple of years ago, and now Rick and Joe Saccone and North Next Cool Restaurant Group are getting together to reimage this one more time. So hence we're going through the process. A couple of things that are happening is we're adding a little bit of a deck out front. And then we're permanently enclosing an area that was permanently enclosed by drop downs. And in the back patio, formerly known as the best patio in Chagrin Falls, we're adding sort of an upper deck. So all in it's like 1,000 square feet or something. So when Robin reviewed this per the new code on parking and all, he looked at the additional space and assigned the square footage to that and attached it to what the property previously was allowed to have parking. And that, I guess, is the variance we're asking for. I would add that if you went back into the same new code and just added up the square footage of the dining rooms and compared it to the new code, we wouldn't really need a variance. And I apologize, I don't have all the exact numbers fresh in my head because I just got off of a 2-hour design review meeting. But essentially, we're just looking for the same parking that the building has always had. We've added some more space, but we're going to decompress, particularly the back patio from the way it was when it was Gamekeepers. There's going to be an outdoor kitchen back there. Will take up a lot of space where guests won't be able to sit. And ultimately, it started with COVID, but it all just kind of seems to make sense. Just not that jam everybody in so tight and give people a little room and make it a comfortable environment. Or truly nice upscale restaurant just to continue in this space in the village. And that's what we're looking for. So I would ask Rick Duty to add on to that if he wants to, or you guys to go ahead with your comments and questions.
So Rick, I just want to make sure I understand you. You are going to have, with this configuration, the same or less number of seats than you did with the previous occupant had?
That's correct. That's our commitment.
The same or fewer seats?
Same or fewer seats.
Okay.
Rick, is that because of just the design, or is this COVID related, or sort of both?
Well, Lisa, it starts as COVID because you kind of got to spread everybody out. We don't know when
Right.
that's all going to end, but it's certainly not, even with the vaccine, it's not going to be for a while.
Yeah.
But the other thing too is that the feel back there on that patio, which is where the change mostly occurs, is going to go from like, God bless Mr. Lutz. He packed him in and he filled them up and it was great. But right now we just want to do some soft seating, make it a little casual, kind of, probably up the ticket a little bit. Rick, tell me if I'm wrong. And then there's an outdoor kitchen proposed back there, which is going to take up about 15% of the space, which will eliminate seats as well. So that's the concept.
Gotcha.
Any other questions from the board for Rick?
Well, actually, I got a question for Rob. Is that what you're finding too, that the seating is going to be less than it was before? I mean, the same than it was
Yes.
before?
Yes, they're using larger tables, spread more out. When we looked at the seating footprint, you can see the map I have on the screen here shows some of the spreading out. I reviewed this with Rick. We had several conversations about it. With that being equal or less seating, we looked at the only other requirement then to calculate parking would be additional square footage. So that's how we came up with the requirement that's before us for the variance.
So the 29 more spots is just because of the square footage?
Because of the square footage, correct, yes.
Okay.
And Jim, if we could get that many people in this thing at one time on a regular basis, the owners will be overjoyed.
Okay, other questions from the board?
I mean, we're going to be operating this standard restaurant operating hours in the village. Nothing crazy, right?
No.
Nothing crazy. Just regular old, like the village. The village, it's not like downtown. It closes down a little early. Some people say nothing good happens after midnight, Andrew.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Nothing good happens after 10.
How about nothing happens?
There you go.
All right. Anybody, any other questions for Rick Siegfried? All right, Rick Duty, would you like to speak or are you good?
I don't really have a whole lot to add.
You need to be sworn in first, Dale, please.
Yeah. Rick, do you want to raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you'll give to the Board of Zoning Appeals will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thanks.
Yeah, Rick's right. We are putting in an outdoor kitchen in the back. Just as you walk in, it'll be right to your right, and the existing bar remains where it is. And that is taking up quite a bit of the patio space. I mean, we looked at the old plans for gamekeepers and there were 106 seats out there. And I don't think you could get more than 50 or 60 out there with our kitchen and the way it's laid out. And that's fine with us. I don't think the demand is going to be such like the old days of Gamekeepers Patio, in the sense there's a lot of other restaurants, including ours across the street. So, but we do think it's a great city and a great town, and we're excited. And then the front concept is actually going to be a different named restaurant, I think. And we're not even sure the name, but we do know the menu is steaks, chops, maybe a couple pasta dishes. We're thinking kind of along the lines of Johnny's Bar or something like that, but we'll see. It's still to be determined. We want the front room to be activated out front, and you guys have been nice enough to allow us to do this in the city. And we don't like that awning much. I think it's pretty much a permanent structure as it is now. We're just going to try to make it nicer and make it not so dark and depressing out there. We don't intend to do anything on the side patio there anymore, even though it's on the plan, Rob. That was something that the side patio off to there right now. Maybe if the hotel operator lets us do something eventually for a waiting area for that, if that was a private party in that room, then great. But right now, we're not looking to do that. We're just concentrate on the restaurant inside and the back patio.
So Rob, is that actually, did you count those seats or that square footage in your calculation as well?
Everything on the plans that were originally submitted was counted towards the calculations.
So it
So the
sounds like there'll be
variance is
far
smaller then?
fewer seats.
It sounds like they're not going to implement part of the plan that was originally submitted, but I did not know that
Okay.
part of this. But at this time, if they do decide to do it in the future, it would be, part of the variance that's granted. So I would recommend, if they do intend eventually to develop that as proposed in the same fashion, that they continue with it as proposed, so they wouldn't have to come back.
Yeah, it would be can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that we would just, because we, like it changes once in a while. So I think we just want to stay with what parking is available for the building now and maintain that going forward, and just give us a little flexibility on that patio. Whatever happens or doesn't happen or somewhere. Just, we're not asking for more and we're not asking for less.
So I think that we should propose to approve the plan as submitted, so you'll have that flexibility. That would include the patio if it ever happens.
Right.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Any other questions or any questions for Rick Duty from the board? All right, Christy, can you see if anyone is out in virtual land who would like to join us on this issue?
Yeah, sure.
Please.
If there's anyone in attendance who would like to speak, is it for or against, Wade?
I think we'll do for or against at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, just anybody who would like to speak.
Okay, so if anyone is in attendance that would like to speak on behalf of this project, please use the raise your hand function in Zoom. None yet, Wade.
All right, we'll just give a few more seconds. Again, if anyone's wrestling with it, Christy, could you point them to where how they would raise their hand?
Sure. At the bottom of your screen, there's a little yellow hand that says raise hand. And when you press it, I see it next to your name, identifies you, and then I allow you to speak to the board.
Christy, can you see if there are other people that are on the line right now in general?
I'm looking at all the people on the line that are in attendance, not with the board. It's almost like a separate waiting room, and no one is raising their hand.
Okay. All right, well, going once, going twice, your last chance. If anyone's out there like to join, one last time. Christy, we're good?
You're good. No hands.
All right, thanks. I guess then we'll turn it, I think Rachel, I'm sorry, Lisa, you're doing the motion on this?
Yep.
And the way we'll do this, many of you know this already, but just those of you who are joining us who might not have done this before, we'll entertain a motion in the affirmative proposing to grant the variances, and then we vote yes or no on that. So I'll turn it over to you, Lisa.
Okay, I move that we approve the request for a variance to section 114105 related to off-street parking spaces for the property at 87 West Street. This is a plan for permanently enclosing the front patio and adding a covered patio on the right and a second floor patio in the rear of the building that was formerly known as Bull and Bird, and to be with a name to be created later. The reason for the request relates to the 2019 change in the parking requirements that requires that any new construction conform to the currently existing parking requirement. And in this case, that would require, if all of those portions of the building were improved, it would require a variance of 29 spaces based on the square footage that's being modified. The intent of the project is to decompress and to add an outdoor kitchen to the back patio, which also will take up a portion of the available seating space. It's the applicant's intent to have the same or fewer eating spaces based on the need to space out tables and the way in which they're envisioning this project. In terms of the Planning and Zoning Commission's approval of the parking plan, the one caveat that they put in that approval that I would say should carry over into this proposal is, or this approval of their request is to require employees to park in either free or village lease spaces so that the spaces around the restaurant could be freed up for patron parking. This request is in the central business district, and parking in any sense, it always seems to be virtual, but it always seems to be available. So in terms of the factors that go into making this decision, the applicant would need to conform with the new parking code or have this variance granted in order to be able to utilize the property in the manner intended. The variance is not substantial based on what's already been utilized in that building. Certainly doesn't change the affect the character of the neighborhood in any way that's not positive. It will not affect the delivery of governmental services. And in terms of the restrictions, the knowledge of the applicant, they were not aware of the restrictions. There is any additional on-site parking that could feasibly obviate the need for a variance, and certainly the spirit and intent of the zoning code would be upheld by us granting the variance. And it may be a self-created request, but based on the need and desire to improve the property, and certainly the fact that there's not going to be any additional traffic there beyond what was already contemplated with the previous restaurant. So for those reasons, I think it's appropriate that we approve the variance request.
Thank you, Lisa. Is there a second?
Second,
Second by Jim Holdren. Rob, can you do the roll, please?
Councilman Johnson,
I vote aye for the reasons stated in the motion.
Frick,
I vote aye for the reasons of the motion and also because, primarily because I think they're seeking less spaces than they've ever had used at that site. So I vote aye.
Holdren,
yeah, I vote aye for the reasons stated, and as Wade said, that this is going to be less seating than before, so this is an easy one.
Kramer,
Aye, for the reasons stated.
Rocky,
I'm going to vote aye, but I'd like to clarify in the motion that it's the central shopping district and not the central business.
Oh, sorry.
district.
It was
Not a problem.
the central thing.
All right, thank you, Andrew.
I just gotta
So,
look it up real fast.
thank you. So that's 5-0. As both Ricks know, you know this by now, the procedure, council has 15 days to entertain an appeal if 3 members of council so choose. If that doesn't happen, on or close to the 15th day, you'll get word from Rob that your variance has been granted and hasn't been appealed, and you're good to go. So wait 15 days.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
Have a good
Thank
evening.
you.
Thank
Appreciate
you very
everything.
much. Thank you.
Okay, item number 2 is the application of James and Erin Fisher, 195 North Street. Rob, can you tee this one up for us, please?
give me 1 second here, please.
Sure.
Get you the best view here.
Just a quick note, George, I see your hand raised. We'll invite you in when time. Thank you for doing so.
Some of us were talking, we love the 11 by 18 paper and not the normal 5 feet by 10 feet paper. So thank you. George,
Only 2 feet.
if you're
2 by
responsible
3.
for that, George, please keep that up with your clients.
This is a good size.
All right, I'm ready here. Yes, this is the application of Mr. James Fisher. This is James Fisher as well. 195 North Street. Permanent parcel numbers, there's 2, 931-14-005 and 931-14-006. They're both in the R160 zoning district. There's actually 2 parts to this variance application tonight. There was 2 zoning review letters that were issued. The first application we received was for a lot consolidation application. On your screen in front of you, it shows the current parcels, both of them. They're both owned by the Fishers, and their current existing house, their 1-story frame house, extends right in the middle of both parcels. They had submitted an application to consolidate these into 1 parcel. When we did the zoning review, we found that there were 2 nonconformities to that. The first being to the minimum lot size, section 1125.03, parens A. And the consolidation of the 2 parcels would result in a new lot of 6,948.56 square feet, which is under the required minimum lot size of 9,000 square feet in the R160 zoning district. So a variance of 2,051.44 square feet would be required. Also, under section 1125.03, parens D, the minimum lot depth requires a minimum lot depth of 120 feet. The mean horizontal distance measure of the proposed consolidated parcel would have a lot depth of 100 feet. So they would need a variance of 20 feet to the lot depth requirement. Those are the 2 variances that would be required pertaining to the lot consolidation. And then after that, we received a proposal for an addition to the structure. Let's see which one of these has the best view for everybody. Maybe this one I can zoom in on. Okay, let me just, 1 second here. So I'll show some elevations here in a minute. They're proposing to add a second floor over the existing first floor. And then the second floor would have an overhang and would have some extension out the front and back. So when we reviewed this, we had to review this proposal based on the fact that the lots were not consolidated as of yet. So side yard setbacks became an additional variance request pertaining to the side yard requirements to the middle lot line. Since we're looking at all of the variances tonight, if the lot consolidation variances are granted after 15 days and they take effect and they are able to consolidate the lot, the need for the side yard setback variances wouldn't be there, but we thought we would cover everything in one night and evaluate it as it was not being consolidated. So it's up to you on how you want to handle that. I just wanted to make everyone aware of that that contingency with the side yard setbacks. The 4 zoning sections that require variances for the addition. The first one is section 1145-02B, additions to a non-conforming building. The existing building does not meet the required regulations and setbacks, specifically the front yard setback, rear yard setback, and side yard setback. And that pertains also, the side yard setback pertains to the middle lot line split between the 2 parcels. So they would need a variance to the modification of a addition to a non-conforming building. The second variance would be to section 1125-03F. This would be the minimum required front yard setback, requiring a 35-foot minimum rear yard setback, front yard setback. The proposed addition has a front yard setback of 32 feet, so they would need a variance of 3 foot to that code requirement. Section 1125-03G, which is the area yard and height regulations, a minimum side yard setback with an attached garage requires a 5-foot minimum side yard setback on each side of the building with a total minimum side yard setback of 12 feet. And this is what pertains to that center lot line. There would be a 0 side yard setback for both of those parcels. So they would need a variance. Let's see here on the total footage. They would need a 5-foot setback to both side yard setbacks for both parcels as the property crosses over the line there. And this is the one that would not be required if the lot is consolidated.
Okay, I was just gonna say, if the lot's consolidated, that's the one, okay.
Right. They do meet the side yard setback requirements where my cursor is here on the south part of the parcel, and then the north part of the north parcel up here. So if it is consolidated, they would be in conformity with side yard requirements. The fourth area of variance for the addition would be to section 1125-03 parens H. The minimum rear yard setback requires a 40-foot minimum rear yard setback or 30% of the overall lot depth, whichever is less. 30% of the current lot depth would be, as proposed, is 29.7 feet. The proposed addition has a rear yard setback of 28 foot. So this would be a variance of 1.7 feet less than the requirement in the code. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Yeah. No, I think I have a million questions, but I think we'll just start with the presentation. I mean,
I'm just kind of going through to show some of the views we have available, showing the elevations of the proposed addition to the structure. I do want to also mention that this project went before the Architecture Board of Review and was granted preliminary approval on January 5th of 2021, and they're coming back before the ABR on February 2nd to present the revisions for final.
Thank you. Now, this is sort of a law review or a law school test for variances with apparently nothing in that property is to code right now. So in any event, we'll turn it over to to the applicant. George Clemens, are you going to be speaking?
I will.
All right. So then Dale, if you could swear George in, please.
Sure. George, can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you'll give to the Board of Zoning Appeals will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, George, the floor is yours.
Right. So I am feeling sorry for whoever picked the short straw who has to make a motion for this. Rachel. But because it's so complicated by the fact that for the last 60 years plus, this building's been actually sitting over 2 lots. So it's a small and relatively, nondescript ranch house that James and Aaron have actually done a nice job of sprucing up a little bit and adding their own touches to it. They don't want to move and they would like to expand it. It's built in that post World War II style. It's not really an example, wasn't found to be historically significant of a particular genre. And what we're doing is respecting some of that post World War II aesthetic in kind of overhanging the second floor. So letting the first floor and the second floor continue to be a little distinct, as you see in a lot of the houses from that era. But we're giving it a steeper roof. We're giving them a substantial, a little more than 1,000 feet on the second floor for bedrooms. And we're, in terms of the variances, what we're basically doing is overhanging 2.5 feet to the front and to the rear. So that's not coming down to the first floor. And I think there are some good 3D views that Rob can go to in a minute to kind of give you a better feel for how the house sits on the lot. In massing, it's certainly not going to be larger than or feel, I do not believe, incompatible with, the 2-story houses adjacent. It's still a middle-sized house of roughly 2,000, 2,100 square feet. So, we think we're doing a good job of trying to address James and Aaron's needs in the house, keeping it's got its own personality, but I think it's going to be very compatible with houses on the street. And, so in terms of the variances, the lot consolidation requires a variance because there's no way to make this a conforming R160 lot. It's not going to be 12,000 square or 9,000 square feet, excuse me. But it is going to be much more conforming than it has been for the last 60 years when the 2 lots ran right through the middle of the house. And then in terms of really the things that we're changing architecturally, so part 2 of this, we're really asking for, I think, not significant changes to the relationship of this house from the front setback and the rear setback, assuming that you're okay with a lot consolidation as an improvement. We don't think we're changing the functional relationship of this house to the front or rear of the lot in a substantial way that would be to the detriment of anyone around or to the spirit of the village zoning.
In that picture there, George, when you're looking to the right, where does this lot, you see the picture with the telephone pole right in front of us?
Correct.
Where does the lot, that particular parcel, which I think is the 005 parcel, can you give me a relative, there's a pretty decent amount of space between that and the next structure and the other, whatever lot that goes up that hill, where does this lot stop?
Correct. So you're really not that close, especially, given R160 zoning.
Mhm.
The side lot lines are really not, well, the two side lot lines, once you combine the lot, are really not pushing tight to the house at all. It might be that James or Aaron, if you wanted to promote them to be a speaker, could tell you exactly that answer, but it's comfortably off because for R160, I want to say you need a combined 12 feet. I mean, you really don't need big side setbacks.
Right, that's a
And
better picture. I see.
yeah, there you go. So you,
Wait, this is Christy. Erin has raised her hand. I don't know if she can come into the conversation right now or if we need to wait until George has completed his presentation.
which I have.
What, George, you said what?
I've completed my initial presentation. So
Oh, okay.
Therefore, Wade, I'm promoting Erin as she had her hand raised and would like to speak.
That's fine. Dale, you'll have to swear her in once we get her on.
Yeah, I don't think that's Aaron in that picture, but we'll see.
Erin,
Aaron,
if you could
are you-
unmute and start your camera, please.
That's a pretty good one.
There we go.
Okay. She's unmuted. There we go. Okay, Aaron, could you raise your right hand for me? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you'll give to the Board of Zoning Appeals will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Hey,
And
Aaron,
James,
Aaron, you'll talk first if is that husband next to you?
yes, it is.
If he would like to speak, we'll swear him in separately. So if you want to start first and then we'll bring your husband into it.
Well, actually, he was the one who wanted to raise his hand, so I'd appreciate it if you'd swear him in.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Fisher, can you raise your right hand?
I can.
Sure. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you'll give to the Board of Zoning Appeals will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do so swear.
Now
Thank
you
you.
could both talk then.
One at
Great.
a time.
One at a time, yes.
The hell. I raised my hand when you asked from that picture looking forward at the lot of where the 05 parcel ended uphill. But I guess you can kind of see that now. I was going to say it's the line is drawn, to the right of the tree that was in that facing picture, as you can see from this overhead view as well.
and not perpendicular to the street. So
No.
it's a bit deceptive as well.
Okay. George, you said you had finished your presentation. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then, Mr. or Mrs. Fisher, is there anything else you want to say? I mean, we'll go to questions here in a second, but is there anything else that you folks wanted to say?
I'll only mention that, we're always looking to kind of improve in the spirit of the neighborhood. So I know that doesn't bear too much on the zoning question, more of the architectural review question, but, we're trying not to push it. We're just trying to make the house fit a little better.
We appreciate that. Yeah.
And we really, we really want to go about this the right way. We want to make this less complicated. We want to, consolidate the lot, that sort of thing, and make it, that much less of a hassle for the village. So outside of that, I don't have anything, dear. Do you? Okay.
George, at the risk of stating the obvious, I just want to reconfirm something. That you're not adding anything to the footprint. You're only adding up, and the second floor footprint is being extended, but the footprint of the house is not being changed on any one of the four walls. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Wouldn't
Board, any
technically the
questions?
footprint be changing
Yep.
because of the 2-foot overhang on the second floor?
Right.
So by our code definition, the footprint is technically changing.
Right. I meant the footprint as it hits the ground, but yes.
Okay.
Any questions from any of the
Let me just ask a quick
yeah.
question. that overhang doesn't change the setback, it would be, right? It's just from the front yard setback to the front of the house exists today, which is the 35 feet required, and it currently is at 32 feet. That's not changing regardless of this overhang, correct? Am I interpreting that correctly?
You're correct on the front yard setback,
Okay,
but I believe on the rear yard setback, although it isn't perpendicular to the rear, I think we might be adding something less than 2 feet, or in other words, compressing the rear yard setback by some foot.
So
Foot
if
and a
I'm
bit.
looking at the maps right, you're gonna have a front and rear yard setback violation, but it's no worse than it already exists, right? You got a little
Yeah, I
on the
think
front yard setback. It's no worse than it already exists.
it's very close to the same. So I'm looking at the rear. The front certainly is no worse. It's at 30.2 feet, and it will still be 30.2 feet. The rear is at 29 feet, and our corner of our setback, just a little corner of that, I'm not sure if it's marginally closer or not, but it's really close.
okay.
And just to be clear for the record, I mean, we're talking about, when whether you're over or under or whatever we're calling it, it varies because the house is staggered. It's not parallel to the setback, right? So part of the house is in compliance and part is not,
Correct. Yeah.
on both the front and the back. So I just want to make it clear for our record that the house is tilted such that part of the house is in compliance and part of it's not.
Right, or part of it's for the rear setback. What we're showing is that we're asking for an 11.72 foot variance from the 40-foot rear yard setback. Oh, so we're coming 0.72 feet closer because the existing house has an 11-foot variance from that. So the entire rear of the house is into the rear yard setback.
Okay, good. No, thank you for clarifying. Yep.
But one point to make about this, something that James and Aaron were reminding me of, is that you've got really a backyard behind that, and it's a steep hill up. So essentially, you have no rear neighbor. What you have is really a slope running up behind that house, and it's essentially a private rear yard from the backside.
Right.
But the topography is obviously fairly significant here.
Any questions of any of the presenters from the board?
I just have a quick question about more of the lot consolidation as we're looking at this. I mean, let's say we didn't approve the lot consolidation. I mean, the house stands on 2 lots, and the lots individually really can't be sold. You can't sell half the house. I feel like this is a really odd request, and it should have gone through a different mechanism than the BZA. It just is odd to me that this is a variance that we would approve when it seems completely like maybe a planning and zoning issue. Like, this is just an administration issue. I mean, maybe somebody doesn't want to consolidate it. I don't understand what the reasoning could be behind not consolidating this. They don't work as separate parcels, even if you tore down the house, because even combined, they don't work as a full lot as it is. So it's just,
I think the problem,
maybe this is a Dale question.
Yeah, I was going to try to answer that for you. When Rob and I first looked at this, we realized that they were making the 2 non-conforming lots more conforming, but there's nothing in our code that allows Rob to approve it because the new lot will still be non-conforming.
Right.
So that's why it has to come before you for variance, because the total lot area is less than the minimum
I
for
see.
the
So it's coming here
R160.
because it's still non-conforming, and therefore we have to allow it. I see. I understand now. That
Right.
makes sense.
So Dale, if it was 2 non-conforming lots that together would be the size of a lot, it would be an administrative decision?
Correct.
Because it would meet all requirements.
Right.
Got it.
Right.
Okay. That,
But this,
that makes
we-
more sense.
we agree with the spirit of your question. Why wasn't this done 65
Yeah,
years ago?
really.
Who let this house get built? I mean, who did? And I don't-
Out of true, in honesty, when you bought this house, was this explained to you, to the buyers? The Fishers? I'm just curious. This is odd.
Well, when I bought the house, I knew there were two parcels. I did not actually know that they went down the center of the house. I was under the impression, actually, when I got the house, that there was like a slice off to one side. Like imagine that parcel number 5 was 14 feet wide and was there. I did not envision this. I found out afterward.
It would be more interesting if they were in 2 different counties, like if they were on the border.
Well, I bought this. I bought this kind of very informally from a friend of my family, and so there weren't a lot of there wasn't a lot of digging that went on when we did
It's a
it. I mean,
handshake deal, huh?
pretty much, seller finance, that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
Good thing you didn't dig, because it'd be unclear where you're allowed to dig.
This is
So
odd
so
one.
you didn't pay two prices, like 100,000 for the bedroom wing and then 100 more?
No, I did not do that.
The house isn't that old, is it? Is it 1950s?
I think it's 53 or maybe 54, somewhere in there.
Crazy that it could get built like that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Other questions from the board? All right, Christy, we're up to that time. Can you see if anyone is out in the virtual waiting room waiting to speak?
I will.
Thank
If any
you.
members, if anyone's in attendance who'd like to speak, use the raise your hand in the Zoom function. Joe, Ken, Morgan, Peter, Rebecca, anyone out there? We have silence, Wade.
All right. Again, we'll give you one more second to see if you're missing the raise your hand button.
No takers.
All right, great. We are up then to motion. I don't know, Fishers, if you were with us before. What we do is we make a motion in the affirmative, and then we vote yes or no on passing that. So we'll take a motion, have it seconded, and then we'll vote. Rachel, this one's yours.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to do 2 motions because
Good.
of the lot consolidation first. And then assuming the lot consolidation goes through, it changes potentially the motion of the second one. So we're going to do that one first.
Good.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion regarding the property located at 195 North Street, located in the R160 zone, currently sitting on 2 parcels. And the desire to consolidate the 2 parcels. The 2 parcels today are non-conforming minimum lot size, and consolidated, they still will be non-conforming per 112503A. In our code, the lot size is required to be a minimum of 6,948.56 square, it is going to be 6,948.56 square feet. And we require a 9,000 square foot minimum lot size in this zoning area. So that would require a variance of about 2,000 and change on the square feet. In addition, they will need a variance to 112503D in our code, which is a minimum lot depth of 120 feet. This lot, as consolidated, will only be 100 feet deep, as the 2 parcels are today. They can't actually extend the parcels. So they will need a 20-foot variance to that. When considering the lot consolidation, it certainly is a unique layout in the fact that there's an existing structure that lays across the exact middle of these 2 parcels, not really providing for options of practicality in any way. to use the parcels separately. Separately, they also are considered non-conforming and would exist in the same circumstances as they are today, needing variances to do anything with the parcels as is. So the property will definitely yield a reasonable return after consolidation to get it more in conformity and closer to standards that meet the village zoning code. The variances may seem substantial, but the consolidation doesn't change any part of the actual infrastructure or footprint or anything that can be built on these. It's simply a matter of administration purposes, truly at this point. The essential character of the neighborhood would not be substantially altered because nobody will even know that these parcels were two at any given time. It will not adversely affect government services. And the property owner purchased the property knowing there were two parcels, but not really understanding how they were situated or the complexities that the consolidation may propose. And there is no way to feasibly obviate this in any other way. And the spirit and intent of the zoning code would be observed by granting the variance. And the circumstances were definitely not self-created. They existed at the time of purchase. For those reasons, I'd like to make this motion.
Second,
Okay, second to Lisa Kramer. Roll call, please, Rob.
Frick,
Aye for all the reasons in the motion.
Holdren,
Aye, for all the reasons stated.
Kramer,
aye.
Rocky,
Aye for the reasons of the motion.
Freshman Johnson.
Aye.
All right, so then Lisa, Rachel, can you do the second motion then?
Okay, based on the first motion and making an assumption that there will be no counter filing to object to this motion by council, I'm going to go ahead and eliminate the need for the side yard setback, or should I include it?
I would include it because.
And so we would vote that it's okay either way.
It's covered, yeah.
Yes.
Jill, do you agree with that?
All right,
Yes.
so I'd like to make a motion concerning 195 North Street, located in the R160 zoning code. The building, which is located on a potential consolidated two parcels into one approved non-conforming parcel, would like to add a second story addition in order to create a additional space in a very modest one-story home with a drive-in basement garage. The actual footprint of the proposed structure, mostly materially, will not be changed. It's just going up instead of out or back. The current structure and the proposed additions are going to require 3 variances and potentially 4 if, for whatever reason, the consolidation of the lots does not get approved by council. So we'll start. The first one is to 114502B, which is additions of a non-conforming building. Obviously, the current building is non-conforming because it has front, rear, and side yard setback non-conformities. So we would need to approve to allow this building to have anything done to it regardless, because it's currently non-conforming. It would also need a variance to 112503F, which is a minimum yard setback requirement that's 35 feet. And currently the house is at 32 feet, needing a 3-foot variance. That front yard setback will not change and get no worse with the addition proposed set forth. The third variance required is 112503H, which is a minimum rear yard setback. The minimum rear yard is the lesser of 40 feet or 30% of the lot depth. In this particular parcel and structure, it would be the minimum of 30% of the lot depth, which is currently calculated at 29.7 feet. The current rear setback is approximately 28 feet. There is a minor tweak depending on where you are in the new structure that might play into that less than a foot here or there based on the structural angle of the house. But for the most part, it'll be a 1-foot setback variance required for that piece of the structure. Again, material not being any worse than it is today. And finally, if for some reason the lot consolidation does not get approved by council, or it gets appealed to council, I should say, they would also require a variance to 112503G, which is the area minimum side yard setback. The parcels, if not consolidated, since the house sits on the middle of the parcels, there is 0 setback on one side of each of the parcel where the house sits in the middle. And the requirement is for 5 yards minimum each side and a 12-yard combined setback, and they would need a full, all of this.
5 feet, 5 feet and 12 feet, not 5 yards and 12.
Sorry, 5 feet. Sorry, I have a lot of yards and square feet. 5 feet each side, 12 feet combined, and they would have 0 for all of those because the house literally sits in the middle of the edge of the parcels. Again, stating that that becomes irrelevant once the lot consolidation has occurred. So whether the property will yield a reasonable return, the home is in a tight area, certainly on a street. However, the addition would be in line and conformity with other houses in the neighborhood. It's not extending any of the conformities that already exist, and they're really just building on the exact footprint that they are dealing with in the current structure. There's no way to move the house back to take care of the front yard setback, and there's no way to move the house forward to take care of the rear setback. The good news is the side yard setbacks will be maintained and they will fit into conformity with those as even with the new structure. The variance may seem is not substantial, actually, if you look at just the front and the backyard setbacks, because of one is only 3 feet and the other one is only 1 foot. Obviously, if the side yards would come into play, it would be different. So I don't think the variance is substantial compared to many other variances that we see needed in our code. The essential character of the neighborhood would be supported. It's going to be an upgrade, an investment in the real estate, and would enhance to the quality and beautification of the neighborhood. It would not adversely affect government delivery services or infrastructure. The property owner purchased this property a long time ago and now has an opportunity to invest and enhance the property by allowing the variances. And there's really, if they wanted to leave the house as is, they could, but in order to provide for a little larger, more modern living spaces, this is the only option, is to do anything to this house. Even if they were going to put on a deck or a porch, they would have to get at least one variance to the non-conforming existing structure. And the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed if supported with this variance. And for those reasons, I make this motion.
Second.
Second to Lisa Kramer. Hey, Rachel, I had my sound down the whole time. Could you repeat the motion? I didn't hear it. Okay. Rob, could you call roll, please?
Sure. Holdren?
I will vote aye for the reasons stated. I also like to point out that the lot coverage is, even with a smaller lot, it's within code, even with this addition. So I think the homeowners and the architects did a great job of doing a modest remodel, and I vote aye.
Kramer?
I vote aye. That was a very well put together motion. I think what's interesting is that even with all of these variances, really what's changing is not much in the way of the footprint. It's just going to be a more appropriate living space, and the area covered by the construction will be substantially what it currently is. And it's interesting that a house could be built straddling 2 lots, and nobody could ever, some surveyor might have come up with, that information earlier. But I think it's an appropriate project, and I would vote aye.
Rocky?
I vote aye for all the reasons stated.
Freshman Johnson?
I vote aye.
Frick?
I appreciate going last because all of my colleagues have said everything beautifully. I vote aye for the reasons that everybody has stated, including all those in the motion. Dale, I have a question for you. Are we going to have a building code issue with the overhang?
Not that I know of.
Not that I know of yet. I will review that with Harry. I don't believe so.
I mean, isn't this
No.
the same issue we had on the, I forget the
I think
street?
that was in relationship to the property lines. It was like a 3-foot, requirement.
Right.
I think it meets building code requirements for.
Okay,
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
okay, good. Yeah, it was, it abutted the back of the
Real
rear.
close to that property line.
It was
yeah.
the rear lot. Yeah, okay. All right, so to the Fishers, what this means, the motion has passed 5-0. So what'll happen now is 3 members of this can be appealed, our passage 5-0 can be appealed to council. It will take 3 members of council to decide they want to rehear this matter for whatever reason. So for that reason, there's a 15-day period during which that can happen. If that does not happen, then that would mean you'll get contacted by Rob Jameson as close to 15 days as possible, let you know if there's been no appeal made, and then your variances will all be good and granted, and you'll be able to proceed. So basically you have 15 days to wait for finalization of our approval. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Is there anything else to come before us tonight, BZA? I thought I heard someone trying to say something. Is there something out there? Okay, anything else to come before us?
I don't have anything.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you. We'll see
Bye-bye.
you all.
Thank you.
Thank
See you all
all.
next month.
especially- Thank you all, especially.
good night.
Too late.
Thanks, everyone.